including removing tax solutions that saved millions of dollars. In fact, one of those bills was a bill that Representative Trujillo helped me with, which was to get combines and splits so that you can get money through the taxable year. So what was happening is anytime you have, I'm a visual person, and I think other people sometimes are too. So let's say I have a piece of property, and this is Leonard's property. And Leonard decided he didn't want to pay his taxes for up to a year and a half. Well, then he would split the property with Joe. Well, after that time frame, I couldn't collect on both of these pieces because now they both had a different identifier. So what we decided to do is that before you could actually split it, you had to pay your taxes through the taxable year. Now that just sounds fair, but it also saved millions of dollars. And in Santa Fe County alone was about $2.3 million in just the first year in which we did this. The more important aspect of it is that we were able to make things fair across the board so that the elderly lady on a fixed income comes in and pays her property taxes. The investor who owns 100 accounts or a subdivision is also paying their fair share of their taxes. So in Sandoval County, the fastest growing county in the state of New Mexico, I started off there. We had about $900 million that's charged to the treasurer to collect for 10 years. Now we're at $1,161 million, and with that, our collection rate has increased to 99.37%. So for those of you who might be business people, you can take that to the bank, because as my value has increased and property taxes have increased, my rate hasn't. Yesterday we had an auction of 161 accounts. Overall, I have 6,800 accounts that are on the delinquent list. It sounds like a lot, but it's only 0.05% when you're talking about over 125,000 property accounts in our area. And we were able to get them all taken care of off of our books, and we brought in about $383,000 yesterday, which most of it will go back to our community, and the penalty, interest, and cost of state goes to the state. So as a treasurer, there's a lot of responsibility. And you're wondering maybe, well, what does that do with Congress? A lot. So it's about fairness and equitability. So a lot of people get emotional about policies or issues that are very important to them, but you have to bring it back to what's fair and what's equitable, right? And of course that has to be with statistics, data, research, information that you get from legislative council or from Congress. The other aspect is that my responsibility as a county treasurer is to protect, collect, invest, distribute, and report money. We're really the safekeeper of property taxes and all other monies that come into the county. Somebody asked me, what committee would you want to be on if you were in Congress? And I told them, I know exactly what committee I want to be on, House Appropriations or Tax Committee, because I believe that our tax structure is broken. In New Mexico, our property taxes are great. It's one of the best ones in the United States. And we pay the lowest property taxes than anywhere in the United States. We're the top 3 to 5. That's one of the good lists we're on. Our other part of our tax system, as Representative Trujillo can tell you, is broken. It's like Swiss cheese and it has holes in it. The same thing is occurring right now in our federal tax reform that has occurred. So Heather mentioned, I spoke, they asked for an expert from the state of New Mexico to speak when Nancy Pelosi was here, and Congressman Lujan and Charles Boyer. And they asked me to do it because I'm on the National Association of Counties. I am Vice Chair of Finance, Pension, and Intergovernmental Affairs. I really get excited about taxes. And taxes isn't the only thing we deal with. Elections is a subcommittee under my committee. Finance and Pension is another. And Finance, Pension, Tribal Government is the other. And that's important to me because I represent 7 Pueblos, 2 Navajo chapters, and the Apaches. So Sandoval County really encompasses similar to CD3 because I have all of the Pueblos and Navajo Nation and the Apache. But I have small communities like Corrales and Cuba and Cositas and the town of Bernalillo. And then I also have the city of Rio Rancho where I've had to learn about industrial revenue bonds and public improvement districts and tax incremental development districts. But I've also had to learn about easements and the complexity that happens between easements and Pueblo government. And so I know that that will be very helpful in the contribution, not only as Congresswoman, but also in the contribution of being able to resolve some of the matters that are occurring or that are going to be occurring when it comes to water and land, which I know you guys want to talk about. So, some of the things that I do right now is I'm the legislative chair for the Treasurer's affiliate. As legislative chair, we've been able to pass 18, 19 pieces of legislation in the last 6 years. Anyone who goes to the legislature should say, wow, that's a pretty big deal in 6 years. And that was even under a Republican governor, because it was all about strategy, bringing people together, helping teach people and understand the fairness and the equitability that needed to occur, because it helped everyone. Another couple bills that got passed, and this is really so that you can pat one of your representatives on the back. I know you guys think of him as one of your fighters for you, and there's some things you might not even know that he was fighting for. Another one was the senior value freeze. With our senior value freeze, it used to be $32,000 per year of income for our seniors or our disabled, and if you were under that threshold, you get to get your property frozen. That was way back since Jim Trujillo, Speaker Lujan, all of them were taking care of that due to the idea of tax lightning, or where a lot of people from out of state were coming into state, they were increasing the value, and it was making all of our elderly people or people who were on lower incomes get kicked out. They got a 3% cap. Remember that? So the $32,000 also helped some of our elderly in that situation. Well, what the legislature was able to do was allow for you to only have to go to the assessor's office 3 times, and then after that, you never had to go back again. This last year, we were able to change it to $35,000. The reason why we did that is because somebody was maybe getting $5 or $10 more on their Social Security check, and they'd get kicked off of the program. So it was actually negatively impacting them worse than if they would have just never received it. So now we added in the $35,000 with the Consumer Price Index. We've had several other pieces of legislation. You can look at my website to see them. My website is lauramontoya4nm.com. So I would say the first question you might ask me is, why do you want to be Congresswoman? Or why do you think that you're the most qualified, right? So let me be very clear of why I believe I am the most qualified. I have worked from the top down, the down to the top, in all different capacities. I just know it needs to get done, and we're going to do whatever we need to do to get it done. I am good at bringing people together. Democrats, Republicans, rural, urban. I'm part of the Rural Action Caucus. It's critical that many of the issues throughout the United States are affecting us here in New Mexico. Broadband. I've been working on broadband. We helped to get millions of dollars to come in. If you go to your app on your phone and you put in Test IT and you have everyone else do it in your community, it's going to pull up all of that data and help you to get funding to come here in northern New Mexico. There's about $3 million that's available to do that. So it's Test IT. When we're talking about farmers and ranchers, my dad is a rancher, so I understand it very intimately. We don't have a lot of water in northern New Mexico, and so we can't grow our alfalfa. So instead, he has to drive down to the south to pick up alfalfa, which costs a lot more, and then you got to bring it back, and then you get blowouts because you try to put too much hay on one road because you're trying to get as much as you can, and it causes more of an expense. And the funding that is coming from federal government is not sufficient for farmers and ranchers to grow things. And when people talk about climate change, you need to understand it's all interexchanged. In order for us to have good farming and ranching, we need to be able to have funding that assists those farmers and ranchers to really survive. And then, when you want to talk about that, as an assessor treasurer person, I have a plan to be able to help our farmers and ranchers who are elder, who can no longer work the land, and now it's no longer agricultural status, which changes that tax amount really high. I know you were working on that with Taos community, because a lot of the elderly got these tax bills that skyrocketed because of the assessment being so high, because they weren't working the land, so it's no longer called agricultural status. Well, what if we use education, a different kind of pathway of education, where we allow for a land lease on their property, they can get food from it, they can get alfalfa, whatever they need, but also young people are growing and learning how to be farmers and ranchers and have a sensible way of growth. How about, since I had the opportunity to go to college. I was very fortunate, but I busted my butt and I worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. I have scholarships and I have Pell Grants. And yet today, 20-some years later, I'm still paying student debt. You should not have to be able to go to college and have to cut off an arm just to be able to survive. At the same time, we have to have another pathway that allows people who want to be farmers and ranchers or mechanics or any other type of trade be able to have a good skill that gives them good paying jobs in the communities that they love and that they want to live in. You shouldn't have to go to the city if you love to live in the community you were born and raised in. But you need to be able to have a livable wage. And that's where I talk about value. We need to value the people that work in our communities. So when I talk about 17 years of experience under some of the best leaders that the state of New Mexico has had to offer, I've learned a lot along the way by observing them. And I believe that I can utilize a lot of those skills to assist us in constituent services work, which is critical for northern New Mexico. As a constituent services rep, that was the part you cared about the most, is that you had somebody who was going to listen to you and help you with something that was going on in the federal level, right? I've heard that over here when I've made my phone calls. People are not happy because they're not getting paid attention to. Yes? I get an amen. So constituent services is critical. As the county treasurer, outreach was the first thing I implemented. We go to all of the rural areas, we get our property taxes taken care of, we assist them with any value freezes, the senior exemption, the head of household exemption, and they're in their own community, so they feel more comfortable and safer and more relaxed about working with government. So I believe that I have my 17 years of experience to really help, but I'm also very young and vibrant to get things done. I'm nonstop. I work mostly about 18 to 20 hours a day. If you don't believe me, you can ask Representative Shakir or Jennifer, because Jennifer works with me in the Treasuries affiliate, and it's nonstop all the time. I am very passionate about serving other people. I believe that that's the way that I'm going to make my mark on this world. And so I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of people in my circle that really help me to learn and grow and solve problems. I believe I'm a great problem solver and a great listener. So now I want to be able to listen to all of you and see what kind of questions you might have or advice you might give or information you might want me to know about.
Thank you. The stuff about JMAC that I noted, I'm going to pass this around. You're not required to take it, but it has the information for the matching on the donations for that. Okay. So behind you, Laura, you'll see a really nice map that I've had around for a while that shows you our area. The orange segments are our tribal land grants. So you have San Alfonso, Poake, Nambe, and Tesuque. All of the green areas are privately owned parcels. And then that big sort of stripe going up and down the middle is the Hakwana land grant, which is a community land grant and run by a board. So it just sort of gives you a very good visual of what this valley looks like jurisdictionally for reference. So I have 2 questions. The first is about Amit. And I've given all of the candidates a little bit of background information. I'll try to go through this quickly and take up everyone's time. In 2010, the Amit Settlement Agreement provided $106.4 million in federal money in 2006 dollars to be spent on a regional water system. Cost sharing for the state and county were set at $45 million and $7 million for a total price tag of $177 million. In 2018 dollars, this would be $219 million. In the summer of 2018, the community became aware of a severe budget overrun for the regional water system, later confirmed in an ISC report to the state legislature that estimated the actual cost of the system at $421.4 million, with a $213 million funding gap. Then on June 12th, state engineer John D'Antonio sent a press release regarding the metering requirement this year, for a metering requirement for the private well owners of our basin, which is the Nambe Tsuke Basin. And it states, the meters will also protect water rights and promote expedited leasing and marketing of water. Despite the fact that we asked all three of our federal representatives, Lujan, Heinrich, and Udall, whether they would increase the spending and change the deadlines for the AMET, the regional water system, none answered. One even told me in so many words that they didn't have the information. That delegation wrote the letter I've given you in August, which explains that they knew that overrun existed. So I have the main question here is that the community has long thought AMET and the regional water system was an urban grab for rural and agricultural water, and that developers will eventually use this water and seem to be subsidized by the county, the state, and the feds to do so. How do you feel about rural versus municipal water uses, and how would you solve this problem?
Just to clarify, the one you gave me was from a different congressperson than the one that you had mentioned to me previously.
All three of them, I think, signed that letter to the DOR.
This one's just Senator Udall.
Okay.
Detailed, sorry. So, there's a couple of issues. I don't think that there's anything that I can tell any single one of you that's gonna make the situation any better. It was the third largest case or longest lasting case. It took 51 years to be able to do. I read through the documentation. I think it was done in a way that if it was done differently, it would have been a little bit more helpful. I think bringing everyone to the table as a stakeholder is critical. I believe that everybody that is involved in the issue should be informed and educated on some of the history that goes with it, whether it's water rights, land grants, pueblos, whatever the case may be. We all know that water is one of our most precious resources, and now that it's more stringent, everybody is trying to hold on to it as best as they can. With this particular case, it's already gone through court. There's not much that a congresswoman can do about it, but what I would do differently in the future is exactly what I was telling you earlier.